Hi, I'm Norman Pirolo, a furniture designer maker at Pirolo Design and a woodworking educator at WoodSkills, and today I'll be presenting Kumiko. It's more specifically the asa-no-ha pattern and how to create it and all the tools you need to create it. It's fairly easy to create once you master the concept, and I'll be presenting the different instruments to create it, more specifically the guide blocks that you'll need to have to actually create the profiles or the different angles that comprise the asa-no-ha pattern. And this is the asa-no-ha pattern, so we'll be working on the hinge area and the different lengths and actually creating the components that comprise the grid, the outside grid, using a thicknessing sled that I delved into in my previous video. So I've also created a different motif or pattern for Kumiko in this example, but we're not going to be discussing that in this video. It's targeted to the asa-no-ha pattern. Now this is the final product, and this is a mock-up of how you can incorporate a Kumiko motif or pattern or grid within a cabinet. In this case, it's a cabinet door. So that's the mock-up for the cabinet door, and this is the final product. This is the cabinet door with the embedded Kumiko pattern. Now it's a little larger than the typical one that we'll be working on. Actually, we'll be working on both on the video. This is a standard square one, and this is more rectangular, really designed to fit this. So you have versatility with Kumiko. You can actually create more irregular shapes and not so much the square shape. So this is more a rectangular shape to fit this door. That's how you can incorporate Kumiko within furniture or even as wall art. Creating the Kumiko involves using a bench hook that I described in earlier videos, a thicknessing sled to actually thickness the components down, unless you purchase components that have already been thicknessed. You'll need the guide blocks to create the different angles, and it's just a matter of assembling it. Now this has a double outside grid, just to demonstrate the versatility you have with Kumiko. You can change things. Now the actual grid itself is called Jigumi grid, and the hinge for the asa-no-ha pattern is Gengatsu hinge. So I had to label them because they're very difficult to remember. So I've labeled this one, and I've also labeled this one. This is Tsugi pattern. It's a little different. They all have different names, and there are literally hundreds of patterns. So stay tuned, and we'll delve into how to create the different components. And once you've tried this a few times, you'll become more adept at creating them. And there's relatively few tools involved. There's just a set of wide chisel, a couple of wide chisels, or even one wide chisel. Again, a bench hook that you should have in your hand tool woodworking. The thicknessing sled. Again, it's optional. If you purchase pre-thickness Kumiko strips, you won't need this, and they're available. They are available, and they're usually dimensioned to a 1/8 or 5/32 thickness, and they're probably about a 1/2 inch wide for the most part. So I've standardized all my components so I can create multiples of these grids. So I've been doing this for a number of years now, and I enjoy it. It really enhances the aesthetic appeal of a piece of furniture, and I've had good feedback, and people are always surprised to see Japanese aesthetic in a more contemporary piece of Western furniture. I also wanted to mention that I do offer a full Kumiko course available through woodskills.com, link in the description, and it covers everything. I'm giving a concise version of the course in the upcoming video, and it covers everything in more detail, including how to make the guide blocks and put in considerable detail, and how to create all the components for Kumiko. It's a couple or 3 hours long. So it's quite an in-depth course if you're interested, and available through woodskills.com, a link in the description. So stay tuned, and we'll delve into this further. I'm Norman Pirolo from WoodSkills, and I'd like to talk about a few woodworking books I've written. My recent book is Quiet Woodworking in an Unquiet World. It talks about my movement to hand tools, from high-tech to low-tech, a woodworker's journey, which chronicles my journey from my former high-tech career to my current furniture making career. Along with that, I offer courses through woodskills.com. The courses range from a basic woodworking course right through to furniture design, and a comprehensive design and making course. All books are available in both print and digital format. These are the components that comprise a asa-no-ha grid. More detail about the actual hinge area and the angles. The guide blocks used to create the angled components for a Kumiko grid, and the components used to create the guide blocks, which I'll delve into very shortly. Dimensions for the guide block are as follows: 1 3/4 inch wide by 2 inches high. So I've marked that off here for clarity on each of the blanks. Next, we rough dimension for the 1 3/4 width with a resaw. It's a resaw fence. So my feed speed is kind of slow because of the hardness of the maple. I want to ensure a straight cut. So I performed this operation for both blanks with the fence set to. So I've already centered the groove in the blank. That's important to do so before continuing with the cuts. And then I run the blanks through with to create 4 grooves, 2 on either side of each blank. So the idea is to perform 4 passes, 2 on each blank, and then raise the router bit every so slightly until you've reached the 1/4 inch mark. I'm just doing multiple passes. I flip the boards. In this segment, I'm actually showing a close-up of the markings along with the length of each of the guide blocks at 8 inches and that common 67.5 degree area I mentioned with the double grooves. So the length is 8 inches for these particular guide blocks. I supply CAD drawings that are identical to the guide blocks I'm creating in the course. Not necessary to have a second cut done to get for each of the guide blocks. So next we cut the 45 degree end of the guide blocks on a table saw using a miter gauge setup. So I've set my fence to 45 degrees and my hands are well away from the saw blade, which is one of the advantages of having a longer blank. So I'm doing the first cut, and this would be the actual end of one of the guide blocks at 45 degrees. I tend to shut off the saw and to remove the saw offcut on each of the cuts. We're doing the second blank here at the same angle. So if you're doing this in production mode, you would want to set up your machines once and do multiples and just create multiple cuts. These are the blanks I used to create the Kumiko strips. And this is the setup I used to actually create the half lap joints. So essentially it's a box joint setup with an indexing pin. So you just move the actual blank along and it creates a box joint or a half lap joint. And I slice the board into individual strips. These are the completed strips on the left. And this is the actual thicknessing sled I used to actually dimension the strips. A more detailed image of the thicknessing sled with a spacer block. And this is how I cut the actual strips into precise lengths. And here I have assembled a Kumiko grid. This is a panoramic type shot of the actual completed grids. Now I've actually inserted them within cherry frames that I'm going to be inserting into a piece of furniture, inlaying into a piece of furniture, as you'll see very shortly. The one on the left primarily is going to be used in the cabinet doors, 2 of them. And here it is. This is a cabinet, and I've actually inserted the Kumiko grids within the doors in this incantation of the cabinet. So please subscribe to my YouTube woodworking channel, where I share more of my woodworking techniques, my woodworking philosophy, my thoughts on woodworking, and all the challenges I've experienced. And I introduce some of the new forms of woodworking I've discovered. And also visit woodskills.com, where I have a good selection of my books, both in print and digital format, on woodworking, and all my online courses, and I also offer some woodworking plans. I have maintained a regular blog on what I've got going on in my workshop and in woodworking in general. So enjoy.